Hey, everybody, welcome to Tarot with an Attitude. I am your host, tarot consultant and spiritual medium, the Reverend Rob Lee. Wow, bang around. What a show we have today, and this is going to be a series. Laura Van Tyne is back with us, and Laura and I are going to do a series, and she has a book coming out that I'm going to show you the title when she comes back on, but it's Battle with the Dark Side, My Journey from Teacher to Exorcist. And we're going to take a few weeks and go through this journey with her. This is Tarot with an Attitude, featuring your host, tarot consultant and spiritual medium, the Reverend Rob Lee. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Tarot with an Attitude. Like I said, this is our featured guest, Laura Van Tyne. Laura, wow, good to see you again.
It's so good to see you, Rob. I just love working with you and doing stuff with you and hanging with you. So thank you.
I appreciate it. I love doing that too. And, you and I get into some really deep stuff and some really funny stuff and things like that. But we've known each other for quite some time. And one of the things we've never done is really get into the Laura Van Tyne story. And now, because there's quite a big backstory, and I don't think people really understand what you do and where it goes with it. So you've written a book. I'm going to share the front of this book. Okay. Battle with the Dark Side, My Journey from Teacher to Exorcist by Laura Van Tyne. Y'all, everything will be in the description on how to get it, what's coming up, but you see it right there. And man, let me tell you something. We're going to do a series here, and we're not going to rush through this because I want people to understand there's more to the metaphysical world. There's more to the spiritual world than just a lot of the airy-fairy crap that's going on out there these days. And there's things we have to be aware of. So, Miss Laura, Exorcist. Wow.
I know.
That's a healthy title.
It's not something I ever planned on when my life took a hard left turn, okay? Or a right turn, or whatever it is.
Whichever. Yeah, I don't know if any, I used to say when I was working with addicts, nobody woke up today and said, hey, let's be a heroin addict. I don't know that anybody woke up and said, hey, let's be an exorcist.
Fun?
Yeah.
Middle school kids, exorcism, really kind of the same.
People flopping like a fish, it doesn't matter. It's okay.
Yeah, so, whatever.
Well,
yeah.
Laura, let me ask you this. So let's start naturally from the beginning. You were a teacher. What grades did you teach?
So I started out as a middle school math and Spanish teacher, and I did that for a long time. But once a week, every year, I would have to become a sex ed teacher for the 7th grade girls. That was not fun.
I'll bet.
At least it's not what it is now. So it was way back when. So I basically taught math and Spanish, which is kind of an odd combination, really. So I have my bachelor's in education with minors in science and in math, but I have another bachelor's in Spanish.
Okay.
And I whipped those out in 4.5 years. At the time, I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I torturing myself, right?
Right.
But there's always a reason. And it enabled me back in the 90s, to get a teaching job right away because I had a Spanish background. Back when nobody was hiring teachers, I was hired. Didn't really fully understand that when I was getting these degrees. And then I got another degree in teaching English as a second language as a master's degree.
Okay.
So I understand that world. And, I was married, kids, living the good life, middle-class American family, San Diego lifestyle. Weekends are shuttling the kids around to various sporting events and making sure we pick them up and this and that. And it was just a busy lifestyle, right? Your very typical family American lifestyle.
Right.
And then one day, literally out of the blue, and this is something I have never talked about in depth because it's so hard. We're just living a normal life. And now the paranormal hells have broken into our house. It's not something I could have ever imagined. I wasn't dabbling. I wasn't touching anything I shouldn't have been touching. We did not go to church regularly, but we believe in God. We believe in all of those good things. And we talk with our kids about that, right?
Yeah. So you weren't flirting with the devil.
No,
It was
goodness, no.
kind of a far thing out of your.
Absolutely. I didn't, to this day, there's a lot of things I haven't done because I feel like they can open up doorways, right?
Right.
Um, Knowledge is power, and we have to understand what we know or we don't know and respect that. And if we want to learn something, we need to really take time out to figure it out. But I'm going through a crisis mode, and these dark beings, these dark entities, and I didn't know what they were at the time. This is closing in on almost 20 years at this point
Wow.
when this
Okay.
started. And the internet wasn't what it is. This information that we have today, nobody was talking about back then. In fact, one of my kids they were targeting one of my kids. And if they would have been targeting me, I wouldn't have worked as hard, right? Because we move mountains for our kids.
Right.
I mean, and so literally one of my kids was being harassed, and then I start interfering, and then I start getting harassed by this unseen energetic world. I'm going to back up a little bit. When I was a kid, I was rather psychic also. But and my parents doing the best they could, like, don't be weird, just be normal, let it go, da, 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 which is fine. But I also realized that they kept me in a safe space that way, right? But I knew, however, this time I had to do something differently because something was happening that was just unnerving, disturbing. We would have dishes like fly off the countertop. We had literally this 4 foot by 5 foot acrylic painting in our living room, and we come home from an art show that evening, and we watch the inside of the painting start having a finger poke from the inside out, going about 4 inches out. It's an acrylic painting. It's plastic.
Okay.
Explain that. And, my then husband just took it off the wall, shredded it, and burned it, literally. Actually, I think he put it in the garbage can, actually. And we didn't know. And so we had all of these weird, anomalous things happening. I would get choked. I would be sitting at my computer working on something, and all of a sudden I would feel these 3 finger marks here at the soft part of the throat, right above the clavicle, start to choke me. And that was very constant. And no one's around me. No one's even home. My 4-pound dog can't do that, right?
Right.
So what is this? What's going on? And the harassment in the sleep state was awful. We had so many ghosts and entities in our house roaming around all the time. I didn't know what to do with them.
How long had you been in that house?
We had been in that house for probably 5 years at that point.
Okay, so it wasn't something that you just moved in and you inherited a place. Something activated and got this stuff moving.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. And, we weren't dabbling. We weren't doing this and that. It wasn't the home. The home started out fine. Now the home, since all that stuff happened, I started studying. I studied a lot of biogeometry, among other things. And I learned about ley lines and stuff like that. So I closed up the ley lines that were on the property, and that helped for a while. So what I would do would help for a while, but it would never stick.
Can you explain real quick what a ley line is to somebody that doesn't
All right.
It's a word. I know it's been used a lot, but I don't think a lot of people know what it is. We don't have to go into the whole thing of it, but
So ley lines are the Earth's magnetic grid. So when we think about migratory animals, how do they know how to fly from Michigan to Florida every year and back, right? They're utilizing the ley line energies. It's not an energy that we can see or sense, but nature can feel it too. And the earth is full of these ley lines. And some are big, some are small. There's Benker, there's all kinds of different types of ley lines. But basically, they are part of the Earth's magnetic grid.
okay.
And they're just energetic lines. It's a really good question, by the way. Some of them are positive, some of them are negative, some of them are neutral, just like everything in life, right?
Right.
It's what can we do with that information? So I ended up mitigating the ley lines on the house property, which helped for a bit, calm things down. But primarily in the beginning, and that took years to figure that one out, by the way. We were inhabited by so many ghosts, so many dead people, that if they would have been living, we would have been in a fire code violation. Okay. We were just like full to the brim of all these dead people.
Okay.
And it's like, what the heck? Why us? Why? And I didn't know what to do with them. And we had this one particular child that I write about in this book who died when she was about 7 or 8 years old. She was in a car accident. And in that process, in that car accident, she didn't know she died. And she found my daughter. I'm going to pause a second.
No, you go right ahead. While she's doing that, I'm going to write something down. All right.
So, sorry about that.
What's that?
Said sorry about that. I should have known better.
That's all right. I'm writing something down because I had a name that just came to me. And if we get to it, we'll get to it. I just don't, it's not a name I normally have or use. So but
Okay.
I'm writing it so I can flip it over and show you in a little bit, see if it means
Okay.
anything.
Okay. So
Sure.
this little girl starts living in our house. She doesn't know she's dead. And I don't know what to do with her. And I'm searching everywhere for help. Religious clergy, shamans, spiritual practitioners. I'm leaving no stone unturned because I didn't know what I didn't know. And I couldn't figure out what I'm supposed to know. And I don't even know what's going on in my house. I know that we're being tortured. And so this little ghost girl is living with us. And what I learned later is she's in resonance with one of my children because of the age. They're the same age when she died. And she finds my daughter and she just kind of moved into our house and I didn't know what to do with her. And I would have spiritual practitioners tell me, oh, you need to cast her away from your house. You need to bind her and bury her. And I'm like, first of all, this ghost child is somebody's child.
Right.
So if my daughter had been killed, I would I would hope she would go home to heaven, right? We always assume children cross over and go back to the heaven world. The reality is when you're suddenly ejected out of your body, you don't know you're dead, or you're a child and you're looking for an adult in charge that's not there, they tend not to know what to do. And so they linger. And pretty soon that light closes, it fades for them, and they didn't know they were supposed to go there.
And you know what? That makes total sense. And if people will stop and think about it, millions of people have come close to having out of body experiences while they're sleeping. And that everything gets so real that all of a sudden they panic and because they didn't intend to be there, they had but everything just lined up. And next thing you know, they are out of the body and they literally freak because they think they're dying or whatnot. And when they snap back in, it's 5 minutes of complete, what the hell was that? So,
Right.
you know, if you're just, and especially with kids with their no fear of mortality, of whatnot, and all of a sudden it's just gone. How confusing must that be?
Right. Their world is now dark and gray and cold. And they're lost. And this little girl was lost. And for me to banish her out into the streets, A, it's not kind or compassionate. B, she can now become my neighbor's problem, right?
Right.
So I didn't know what to do with her, but I also knew that there had to be a solution. I mean, clearly we're not unique in this situation. Clearly other people have had similar experiences, right?
Right.
And so she ended up living with us for quite a while. I think like 18 months. And I'm searching for help and I'm looking and looking and I'm looking for the woo-woo shit, excuse me, the woo-woo stuff.
No, that's all right. People
And
know me.
my husband's looking at the religious stuff because somewhere there has to be a happy medium, right?
Right.
And he would get the phone numbers from various religious institutions and people, and I would too from my end, because literally you will leave no stone unturned to help your family.
Right.
Right? We just don't. And so that's where I started working with, and that's how I got started. I ended up having to leave the teaching world because I had to figure this out. I didn't know I had to figure it out either.
Right.
I mean, I should be retired with a pension by now.
I hear you.
But I don't regret it either. What I didn't know at the time is that the dark side saw my potential future, a future I didn't know existed, but they saw it and they tried to stop it before it could happen.
Gotcha.
And that's how I got started.
Okay.
But it took me 10 years to figure out the why.
You know, when you started telling the story, and a lot of people don't know because of the editing, you had to get up and walk away. You had something going on. But I wrote down a name, and I don't know. I'm not saying it's that little girl or whatnot, but right when you started this story, the name Tabitha came
Tabitha.
to me. So I don't know if it's that little girl, but they're a Tabitha presence or whatnot. I'd be interested.
Let's work on, you know what we're going to do? We're going to
Okay.
work on Tabitha.
Okay.
Um,
Because I believe, all right, now I'm getting the whole thing. Through
yeah,
the story, I believe there's a child running between you and I right now,
I do
energetically.
too. I am
That
feeling
is,
it.
okay. Yeah, I just
And
got
this, when I talk about these things, that is not all that uncommon.
okay.
And so what we're going to do is you and I are going to work together. I don't think we've ever really worked together, have we?
We have not.
Okay. So I've never done this on a show before.
Okay.
So we're going to see what we can do. It's going to be fun.
All right.
Um,
Gathering crystals and different things around
okay.
me. So
So she to me is approximately around that same age that I mentioned. Is that fair?
yeah. And you never really gave me an age. You just said around your age of your daughter at that time. So
Okay.
I'm picturing 9, 10.
8. Yep.
Okay. I'm in the
8.
ballpark.
Yep.
All right. We've never had this conversation.
No, we haven't. So a lot of what's in this book, I've never discussed before.
Okay.
It's very personal. It was very hard to write because the PTSD, the traumas, the trials, the tribulations. I mean, I read this book and I'm like, wow, that happened, right?
Right.
I was able to come out the other side of it. So was my family, but whoa. So here's what we're gonna do. Um,
I'm getting really weepy.
yeah, all
All I'm
right,
hearing right now is I want to go home.
yeah. So I'm gonna place a golden circle, and we can do it on my side or your side, whatever you prefer.
Let's do it on yours.
Okay, right here, this golden circle. And I'm utilizing this golden circle to help Tabitha. And let me know when you can see or sense her in that circle. And by the way, we're working in the ether, so she's not physically here, okay?
Right. Okay.
And I do that because I'm not contaminating your home or my home.
She's there.
Yeah,
She's
she is.
there.
All right, so I'm going to ask you some questions. And this is how I work with clients. I will ask you questions to see if we're on the same page. If, you say she has blonde hair, I say she has black hair, we work through the problem together. Don't ever assume I'm
Right.
always right, okay? But let's just focus in on Tabitha, and I'm going to ask you questions for validation. And we're going to grow the connections, okay? Tabitha. Do you get an era of time when she may have lived?
It wasn't that long ago. I'm not getting like Victorian clothing.
Yep.
or anything else, but I am picking up like a yellow, I'm getting blonde and a yellow dress.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Tabitha. I'm going to bring in a pair of angels for Tabitha on each side of her. They're mom figure angels.
Okay.
All right. We're going to ask her some yes, no questions. Tabitha, are you feeling warmer right now?
Yes, and everything I'm picking up, the angels are actually with her, and
Mhm.
one that would be on my left is actually kneeling down in front of her, and the other one is holding her hand.
Yeah. All right, sweetheart. Let's ask her, Tabitha, are you hungry?
Yes.
All right. What would she like to eat?
What to eat, sweetie? Mashed potatoes.
All right. We're going to have the angels produce those mashed potatoes for her. What we're doing is we're rebuilding her energy. So, food is a human mind construct, right? We need food to survive, right? We need food
Right.
for energy. So, these mashed potatoes represent energy, prana, or chi. All right, let's ask her this question. Tabitha, are you feeling safe?
She is now. She did not before. She was feeling lost and didn't know where to go. She's really happy with the two angels that are there.
Yeah.
Both are very masculine angels from what I see,
Okay.
and this gives her a feeling of protection.
Usually with children, I'll ask for mother figure angels, but I will
Right.
never supersede what God wants to happen.
Gotcha.
Let's ask her this question. Tabitha, do you know you're dead? Do you know you died?
I think it's she's finding it out now.
Yeah.
What I want to, because at first I'm getting like that little girl, huh? Or what? And then she's starting to like look around. She's
Okay.
crying.
Tabitha,
She's crying, not out of sadness about she's finally figured she knows what's happened.
there's a huge sense of relief, and I'm feeling the relief coming off of her.
Yes. She's
Tabitha,
been stuck like this for a while.
yeah. My impression is like the 90s or so, maybe early
I would,
2000s.
yes, I would agree with that.
Um, Tabitha, may we ask you some questions to help us understand?
Yes.
When you were alive, were you abused?
No,
Okay.
no.
I'm going to rephrase this just a little bit because sometimes children don't know what abuse is because it's their norm, and she may not have
Right.
been. Tabitha, when you were alive, did you live with your family?
All I'm getting is mommy.
Mommy. Did you live
Mommy's
with your
coming out
mommy?
huge.
Okay. All
Yes.
right. Did somebody take you from your mommy, Tabitha?
Yes. It
Did that person hurt you?
was very scary. And then I didn't know where I was.
Rob, I think she may have been murdered. We're not going to go into the details on air. All right, Tabitha, I want to thank you for being so brave and courageous to help us understand. Is there anything else you need, Tabitha?
A woman has joined in
Okay.
and they're hugging.
Yeah.
I don't know if it, I'm not getting like a grandmother figure. I'm actually getting like it could be the mother figure or somebody that's perceived as a mother figure that has gone on before.
I'm not entirely sure. We can ask her. She may or may not know, but Tabitha, is this your mom?
No,
Yeah. Okay. Um,
auntie something. It's my aunt or auntie, and I can't get the name.
okay. It's my auntie. Yeah, I heard I heard literally auntie, which is not like how I would say it.
Me, I'm from the South. It's aunt.
I heard auntie also. So, okay. Tabitha, I have one more question. How did you find us?
She keeps pointing at me.
Okay. All right. Thank you, honey.
What I'm picking up is somewhere along the line, I made her feel safe, and she's been with me for a little while, and
Okay.
I didn't know it.
Yeah.
All right. Um, oh my God, that explains the hat stuff. I'll explain that in a minute.
Okay.
Um, Tabitha, did you play with my hat? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. And yeah, somewhere she just became very, very attached to me. And then what I'm really picking up is Laura, you remind her of her mother, if
Okay.
that makes any sense at all.
Mm-hmm. It does. It does. All right. Tabitha, were you seeing dark things chasing you after you died?
She's not sure. It's been like walking through a fog.
So let me ask her this question. When you found Reverend Rob's home, did you feel safe in his home?
Yes.
Okay. That tells me that it was not pleasant for her.
Okay.
Okay. All right, sweetheart, are you ready to go home to heaven?
Sweetie, it's okay.
You're gonna be able to help your mommy from the heavens, okay?
There's so much happiness there waiting for you. This other female figure is starting to take her by the hand. She's waving goodbye,
Yeah, they're going, yeah.
and they're all four walking into a light and getting smaller.
And we're gonna close up that scene right now. And I want to thank those beings for helping us today. We're sending them our love and blessing and gratitude for this moment in time and for the ability to assist Tabitha in a most profound way.
Thank you.
Did not anticipate that one today.
Blah, blah. Okay. What's funny, my wife and I just went away. We went to Florida for a week, and then we went on a cruise for a week. Um, while we were in Florida, I had a khaki Portsmouth hat. I think she attached to me while we were away and
Mhm.
came home with us.
Um, Yeah.
What was funny was during the Florida trip, I lost my Portsmouth hat. And my wife said, "Where's your hat?" She saw me wearing the hat. We literally went through this whole scenario of going through restaurants. It's just a hat. It's no big deal. It's no emotional value. My dad didn't wear it, soaring over the Andes or anything like that. It's a hat I bought at a gift shop. And when we got home, we were home for a week. Just, okay, the hat's gone. I got to get another one. All right. all of a sudden, my wife looks at me. She goes, "There's your hat." And it's not hidden. It
It's all in
is,
plain sight.
it was right there where we put our keys. It would be like wherever you go every day, that's your main, like, you throw it in bowl or whatnot. It was sitting right there. So we're both shaking our heads like, oh, no, we're just nuts. But we knew deep down inside that wasn't it. We called a friend of mine, asked her to do a reading. She believed it to be my father, you know, who was mad because I didn't say happy birthday to my mom, who had passed over or whatnot. And I think it could have been both because my dad loved kids. My dad loved children. He ran junior churches, things like that. He may have been a, you know what, he loved
Um,
kids.
he may have, he may be working to assist on that other side with children,
Okay.
right? So, and in certain areas along the Caribbean and all over the United States at this point, child trafficking is at epic proportions.
Oh my God. It's crazy.
And it was starting to get under control for a while. And now there's a lot of money in the flow of humans, unfortunately. We need to understand that when it comes to illegal immigration, regardless of country, if you disappear, nobody's going to know to look for you.
Right.
I don't know if she was legal or illegal. I don't know. It's irrelevant. I suspect legal, but I suspect was trafficked. Um, Nowadays, things have been really ramped up in the trafficking field. So, this is one of the most profound forms of spiritual service that we can do when it comes to helping people, because what we just did for Tabitha, we changed the trajectory of her soul's evolution.
Okay.
If she would have been lingering as a ghost for eternity or half of an eternity or whatever, her soul energy would start to degrade, start to fall apart, start to fail. But because she was afforded this form of spiritual service, she gets the soul healing, the soul restoration that every human is entitled to. The 23rd Psalm, he restoreth my soul, that means something.
Right.
Every holy text has something like that in there. It means something. Christ talks about life everlasting, not death everlasting. And so in my battle with the dark side, they tried to stop this potential future. If they could have had access to Tabitha's soul for an eternity, she's basically a battery source for them.
Okay.
She's a power source. She's just somebody's lunch. There's so many out there like that. So we stopped that karmic clock for her and shifted her trajectory for her. She was stuck between literally heaven and earth. We call it the hells because that's just what we call it, or lower astral or whatever. So
Right.
that was a big deal. I've never done that on a show before,
I've
ever.
never had that happen. I've talked to people's parents and kids and things, but nothing like this. And you and I never even talked about any of this
Yeah.
going. It was more about when we brought up the little girl, and I think that's what got
That
her.
was the resonance issue. She's all of a sudden like, oh, right.
Yeah.
And she was the sadness in the beginning for her. It's hard not to go over that waterfall.
Right.
Because when we think about a small child who is lost or lonely, or we think, of a child who's been kidnapped, you as a parent, you're wondering, are they warm? Are they safe? Where are they? Right? The same thing happens upon death. We need to make sure our children cross over. We can't just assume that they've crossed over.
Right. I
We
agree.
need to ask God for help. Make sure my baby, my loved one has crossed over. You can do it literally. Bring in angels. I'm bringing in angels from the higher realms to come and take Tabitha home to the heavens right now. It can be that simple. I did a smaller procedure so you and I could connect, so we could have, I always want to find that when I work with somebody, a clearer connection. I want to make sure that you and I are seeing or sensing the same thing, because I can make up all kinds of stuff and you're going to believe me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But you saw it very clear. I saw it clearly. We had the very same answers. If they're the same or similar, that's the sign for me that we're on the right track.
Right.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. And one of the key things was the auntie thing, because like I said, it's aunt to me. Okay?
Right. Me too. Aunt.
And even
It
with
was an
my wife, it's aunt, or whatnot. But this was more auntie, aunt,
Yeah.
Yeah. And because that's not just me, it would have been aunt. But you mentioned something about, I don't know, I'm getting stuff. The thought I had was the dark side. Will it use, I've heard, and I have my own feelings about it, that they will use young feminine presence to hook you and lure you in.
Mm-hmm.
Is that you believe
Yeah,
that?
yeah, it is true. They can shapeshift, they can do all kinds of things. They can read our minds. And they will use, so I'm going to call it softer energies to lure people in. So a big
Okay.
part of what I teach and what I do, we'll get in that later.
Okay.
Spiritual discernment. How did we know that was really Tabitha?
Right.
Right. So when she was in that I'm calling it a containment field that I created. If she would have been of the dark side, we would have seen her true self shift, because she couldn't
Okay.
have held that energy. So there's all kinds of tools that I utilize, because we talk about discernment all the time. Hey, I need a plumber. Do you know of a good plumber? Do you know of a good plumber? Looking up reviews, right? But how do we know if we're really talking to Archangel Michael or not? Right?
I'm glad you said that. And that
So,
is exactly what I was talking
yep. And so this is a big part of it. And this is why the dark side tried to stop me before I even knew it existed.
And so what I want to do, Laura, is we've got to continue this. I mean, so
Yes.
this would be a good place to stop for this show. But folks, there's going to be part 2, part 3, part 4, because we never got into
Nope.
exactly how Laura even got to where she's at. And
Yeah, there's a little sidetrack that happened, but that's okay, right?
yeah, no, that's exactly okay. So yes, here's my biggest thing whenever I broach the subject of dark entities or whatnot or things. Be careful what you play with. If you're watching the
Yes.
show, the biggest thing I can give you is where most people get into trouble is playing with something they don't know what they're playing with, and they haven't even acknowledged they're doing this. There is no dark side. Everything on the other side is light, rainbows coming out your ass, unicorns, the whole thing. And you know what? Our own physics teaches us for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. The yin, the yang. It's not positive so much and negative, but opposing forces. That is common in our universe, and it is common in the spiritual world. Would you agree?
Absolutely. If I were to pick up a snake and kiss it on the lips,
Okay.
I would get a much different reaction if it was a garden snake or a rattlesnake, right?
Absolutely.
But it's still a snake.
Yep.
And by the way, I don't like snakes.
Yeah,
I'm not a fan.
I'm right there with you, clearing the room.
But you get a different response if you pick up a garden snake or a rattlesnake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, a constrictor, whole nother thing.
Oh yeah. No, not doing that.
Anyway, this was fantastic.
This was great. So I do next time. Let's make sure I want to get back into your story.
Okay.
And what were the next steps? I think another important thing I want to bring out is everybody heard Laura's educational background, 2 bachelors, a master's. These are not from Hocus Pocus University. These are legitimate accredited degrees. I have my master's in social work. My wife has her master's in business from Stetson. What I need a lot of people to understand is a lot of people that are being just discounted as nuts still have a good grasp of the scientific and academia world, and we can see where they mix them. So don't discount somebody because they're saying something. We're not all idiots. Laura, thank you so much. And folks, as usual, Laura Van Tyne, the book. I'm going to bring this back up one more. Laura, tell them where they can find the book. Is the book out yet?
You know what? It's going to be out around September 20th. So this one's coming out really soon, but there's a link for pre-sales. And then it'll be on Amazon. It'll be on Barnes and Nobles and pretty much found everywhere. Paperback, hardcover, ebook, and then eventually, as soon as it gets edited, the audiobook. So, but there's a link to buy it, but right now it's pre-sales.
Good deal. And then, then you got another book coming out that we're going to talk about down the road that, man, we got a lot lined up for you folks.
It's going to be fun.
So we're going to have a good time. So, with all that being said, Laura, thank you very much. Everybody, you know the drill. Hit the subscribe, hit the like, hit the share, but most importantly, take what you want. Leave what you don't, but leave having experienced a little peace, love, and light. Banger. This is Tarot with an Attitude, featuring your host, tarot consultant and spiritual medium, the Reverend Rob Lee.